He gave up everything for her. 2 jobs, his dreams, even his own well-being, all so that she could shine. She said she loved him, but that love disappeared between meetings, emails, and deadlines. 5 years later, he was sleeping alone in a king-size bed, and she barely remembered the last time she hugged him. But when he finally decided to leave, she let him go without thinking twice. What she did not expect was that a year later, he would be a completely different man, confident, rich, desired, and the most amazing of all, in someone else's arms. Was it too late now to love him? How many times do we only realize the value of someone when he is gone? If you like History with Twists is with exciting end, sign up on our channel and comment what you would do. In the first month after the divorce, Min-jae felt like he was living in slow motion. He woke up early, drank coffee from the same cup as always, but it didn't taste the same anymore. His small, simple house felt even emptier without her presence, even though, deep down, she had been emotionally absent long before she physically left. Min-jae spent weeks trying to figure out where everything went wrong, and as much as it hurt, he knew it wasn't entirely her fault. He had given so much of himself, loved with intensity, and tried so hard to please her that he completely forgot about himself. But in that painful silence, something inside him woke up. It was time to think about him. For the first time in years, he looked in the mirror and asked himself, "What do I want to build now?" With little savings, he decided he wouldn't waste another day. He sold his motorcycle, took out a small loan, and started something modest but full of potential, a street cafe with a modern Korean twist, blending art, technology, and great stories. The name? Cafe Hanul, which means sky, a name that represented a fresh start. In the first few months, Min-jae slept only 4 hours a night. During the day, he served customers with a genuine smile. At night, he posted videos about coffee, entrepreneurship, and new beginnings. He spoke from the heart, unafraid of showing that he had once fallen, and because of that, people started paying attention. Influencers began visiting, small investors became curious, and what was once just a charming little stand in downtown Busan turned into a bustling spot with lines out the door on weekends. A reporter from a local magazine interviewed him. Without mentioning his past, Min-jae said, "Sometimes life breaks us, so it can rearrange the right pieces." Meanwhile, his ex-wife continued thriving in business, but completely alone. She collected awards, profits, and contracts, but at home, the echo of loneliness grew louder with every passing night. She saw Min-jae's achievements all over social media, but pretended not to care. "Good for him," she mumbled, though an odd, sharp feeling stirred in her chest. One day, while preparing to give a leadership talk, her company hired a coffee service. As the coffee began running out, the manager quickly called for more. The person who came to handle it was a new hire from the audiovisual company. His name? Min-jae. She froze. He didn't say a word. He simply looked her straight in the eyes, professional, respectful, confident. And in that moment, she realized. He had changed. He was no longer the young man she used to leave waiting late at night, no longer the man who begged for affection and got empty excuses in return. Min-jae was now a fulfilled man, respected, admired, a man who walked with the posture of someone who had finally learned to love himself. As he was leaving, she tried to call him. "Min-jae?" He turned, smiled gently, and simply replied, "Have a great talk. Take care." And he walked away. No anger, no resentment, just the peace of someone who had chosen to move on. In the first month after the divorce, Min-jae felt like he was living in slow motion. Now, he woke up early, drank coffee from the same cup as always, but it no longer tasted the same. His small, simple house felt even emptier without her presence, even though, deep down, she had been emotionally absent long before she physically left. Min-jae spent weeks trying to figure out where everything had fallen apart, and as much as it hurt, he knew it wasn't entirely her fault. He had given so much of himself, loving intensely, trying to please her, that he completely forgot about himself. But in that painful silence, something inside him woke up. It was time to think about him. For the first time in years, he looked at himself in the mirror and asked, "What do I want to build now?" With no real savings, he decided he wouldn't waste another day. He sold his motorcycle, took out a small loan, and started something small but promising, a street cafe with a modern Korean twist, blending art, technology, and great stories. The name? Cafe Hanul, which means sky, a name that represented a new beginning. He had to do something. He couldn't let himself fall into depression. He had to fight back. In the first few months, Min-jae slept only 4 hours a night. During the day, he served customers with a genuine smile. At night, he posted videos about coffee, entrepreneurship, and starting over. He spoke from the heart, with no shame about having once hit rock bottom. And that is exactly why people started paying attention. Influencers began visiting, small investors became curious, and what had started as just a charming little stand in downtown Busan soon became a busy, thriving spot with lines out the door on weekends. A reporter from a local magazine interviewed him. Without mentioning his past, Min-jae said, "Sometimes life breaks us just to help us rearrange the right pieces." Meanwhile, his ex-wife kept growing in her career, but completely alone. She collected awards, profits, and contracts, but at home, the echo of loneliness grew louder with each passing night. She saw Min-jae's achievements all over social media, but pretended not to care. "Good for him," she mumbled, even though a strange, sharp ache tugged at her chest. One day, during a leadership talk she was about to give, her company hired his company to provide coffee for the event. As the coffee started running out, the manager quickly called asking for more. The person sent to handle it was a new hire from the audiovisual company. His name? Min-jae. She froze. He didn't say a word. He simply looked her in the eyes, professional, polite, and confident. And in that moment, she realized he had changed. He was no longer the same young man she used to leave waiting late into the night. No longer the man who begged for affection, only to receive excuses in return. Min-jae was now a fulfilled man, respected, admired, a man who carried himself like someone who had finally learned to love himself. As he was leaving, she tried to call him, "Min-jae." He turned, smiled gently, and simply replied, "Good luck with your talk. Take care." And he walked away. No anger, no resentment, but with a heart that felt lighter because he knew something had shifted inside him. The desperation of the breakup was gone, and in its place was the peace of someone who had chosen to move forward. The emptiness in Seo-yeon's heart was overwhelming. She had everything she once dreamed of: companies, money, recognition, a packed schedule, trips, interviews. But at the end of each day, when she arrived home and dropped her purse on the couch, all she felt was silence. The cold walls of her apartment didn't return smiles, hugs, or love. And over time, even success began to fade. Competition was growing, the pressure was mounting, and she found herself increasingly alone. One day, while scrolling through social media, she saw a new post from Cafe Hanul. It was packed. People were praising the experience, the warmth, the positive atmosphere. And there, smiling among the customers, was him, Min-jae. But something else stood out even more. Beside him, a simple young woman wearing a blue apron and bright, sparkling eyes was chatting with a group of international investors. Her name was Ha-Rin. Min-jae had hired her just a few months ago. She was humble, dedicated, and incredibly creative. The daughter of florists, she brought a sensitive vision to the little details that turned the cafe into an unforgettable place. It was her idea to create a cozy reading corner, a wall with vintage photos, and a space where people could leave messages of hope. And thanks to these thoughtful touches, Cafe Hunnel didn't just grow, it became a reference point. Loyal customers, collaboration contracts with international brands, and even invitations to open branches in Tokyo and Singapore. Seo-yeon watched it all from afar, not knowing how to react. She started questioning her choices. Was the love she once didn't value actually what really mattered all along? One day, she gathered her courage and went to Cafe Hunnel, not to try to win him back, but simply to apologize. When she arrived, it was Ha-Rin who greeted her first. Friendly, polite, she offered her a special drink. Min-jae saw her and, after a few seconds, came over to greet her. Seo-yeon stood up, holding back a conflicted smile. "I'm not here to bother you. I just wanted to say, you won, and you deserved it." Min-jae didn't answer immediately. He looked into her eyes, took a deep breath, and said, "I never wanted to win against you, Seo-yeon. I wanted us both to win, together. But you chose a different path, and I've learned to follow mine." She lowered her eyes. Those words hurt more than any insult because they were true. And the hardest part was accepting that he was now truly happy, with or without her. She left the cafe in silence. On the way back, she thought about everything she had lost by putting work above everything else. And for the first time in years, she cried without pride. Meanwhile, Min-jae and Ha-Rin were celebrating a new contract with a Japanese company. Cafe Hunnel would soon open in 3 more cities across Asia. Min-jae had rebuilt his life not out of revenge, but out of self-love. And now, beside someone who valued him from the very beginning, he understood what true love really meant. The kind of love that builds, that multiplies, that respects each other's time and growth. This story teaches us that love is not just about starting together, it's about growing together. When one person focuses only on their own goals, the other eventually gets tired. But when 2 people support each other, success becomes a natural consequence. If you've made it this far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So many people watch, get emotional, but forget to subscribe. And it truly makes a difference so we can keep bringing you stories like this one. Success brought apparent satisfaction to Min-jae, but deep down, a persistent emptiness lingered. Even though his numbers kept growing, even though his company was becoming more and more valuable, he felt the absence of something that money could never buy. The memory of Seo-yeon still weighed heavily, despite everything they had been through. It was as if something remained unfinished. And it was in that space, between progress and loneliness, that Ha-Rin quietly began to occupy a place in his life. Ha-Rin was a dedicated, quiet, and kind employee. Even without saying a word, her care was noticeable. She would often watch Min-jae work long hours, forgetting to eat or rest. One afternoon, he felt sick and had to sit down on the sofa in the meeting room. Ha-Rin walked in with a glass of water and, without hesitation, called a doctor. From that day on, she started taking care of him silently, organizing his meal times, helping with small tasks, and filtering problems before they even reached him. Min-jae was so overwhelmed and still wounded from the breakup that at first he didn't realize how much she cared. But over time, he began to look at her differently. The way she smiled when bringing him coffee, the patient way she listened to his silent complaints. Ha-Rin was different. She didn't demand anything, but she offered everything. She became a constant presence that lightened the weight he carried. Slowly, he began to feel something he had never experienced before, true love for someone who expected nothing from him. Yet there was something about her, a mystery she never shared. Min-jae sensed that Ha-ren carried an old pain, something not visible at first glance. The truth was, Ha-ren had a secret. Years ago, when she was still very young, she worked at a small restaurant in another neighborhood. One night, while returning home from work, she suffered a violent assault that marked her life forever. From that violence, her daughter was born, along with a wave of rejection. When her parents found out about the pregnancy, they accused her of getting involved with someone and threw her out of the house. Alone and wounded, Ha-ren found strength where she never knew it existed and fought to raise her daughter. She rented a tiny room, faced prejudice, and raised her little girl with love and resilience. Today, the little girl was 5 years old, clever, curious, and very much like her mother. Ha-ren avoided talking about her at work, afraid of being judged, or worse, that Min-jae would see her differently. Because of that, she kept her personal life completely separate. But destiny, as always, would find a way to bring the truth to light. One night, it was raining heavily. As Ha-ren left work, she huddled under a small umbrella and hurried down the sidewalk. Min-jae, exiting the parking lot, recognized her and pulled his car over beside her, offering a ride. She hesitated, but his sincere gaze made her accept. During the ride, they talked about simple things. Ha-ren smiled more than usual. As they neared her home, she asked him to drop her off at the corner, avoiding letting him see exactly where she lived. Min-jae found it strange, but respected her request. As he watched her disappear around the corner, her feet getting soaked by the rain, something in his heart tightened. For the first time, he truly wanted to know more about her. Who was Ha-ren outside of work? What was she hiding? Meanwhile, Ha-ren arrived home and found her daughter sleeping on a small mattress in the corner of the room. She sat beside her, gently running her fingers through her hair. A mix of guilt and fear filled her. Guilt for falling in love with her boss, fear of mixing feelings with work, and panic that her past might come to light. But at the same time, her heart was beating stronger than ever. Maybe it was time to allow herself to truly live, even if afraid. She was always grateful for a kind neighbor, Mrs. Sue, a simple elderly woman who lovingly cared for her little flower as if she were her own. Even though Ha-ren could only pay her a small amount, she felt that Mrs. Sue truly loved her daughter and that the little money she received helped her buy food. Seon reappeared exactly as she had left, flawless, powerful, captivating. But this time with something different, the subtle shine of insecurity in her eyes. She had scheduled a dinner with Min-jae, saying she wanted to talk, reminisce, and understand what was still left between them. He hesitated, but agreed. After all, it was a part of his past that needed closure. The restaurant was elegant. Candles, wine, soft background music. Seon looked stunning in a red dress, and right at the beginning of dinner, her eyes said more than her words. Min-jae, you look more handsome than ever. Thank you, Seon. You look well too, he replied politely. She smiled, and the tone of the conversation shifted from polite to emotional. She began recalling their early days when they had nothing but each other. Do you remember when we used to sleep at the office, when you made ramen for me and told me everything would be okay? You always believed in me, more than I did. I believed in us, he replied sincerely. She lowered her eyes, gently touched her wine glass, and confessed, I made a mistake, Min-jae. I got lost in success. I lost you, but I want to come back. I want to fix everything. The air grew heavier. The music played a romantic melody, and Seon leaned slightly forward, touching his hand. I still love you, she whispered. Min-jae didn't pull his hand away. He was confused. This woman had been part of his life for so long. They had built something together. He had truly loved her. Was there still something left? Seon leaned in closer, her voice more seductive. "We can try again, start from zero. I know you have a successful business now, and I can help you. We can be a team again." She gently touched his face, just like she used to in the past. Min-jae took a deep breath. Something inside him stirred, but it wasn't love. It was memory, nostalgia for what once was, not for what still could be. Even so, he remained silent. He didn't pull away. His heart was racing, and the audience watching this scene wondered, is he going to fall for it? Does he still love this woman? Is he willing to forgive her and try marriage again? Seon stood up from her chair and walked over to him. She placed her hand on his shoulder and leaned in, her lips almost touching his. "Just give me one more chance, Min-jae, for everything we've been through." She tried to kiss him. Min-jae didn't pull away. Silence, tension, and then he stood up. "Seon, we lived a beautiful story, but I'm no longer that man, and you're no longer that woman." She froze. "I'm grateful for what we built, but everything you're trying to reignite died the day I walked out of that house and you didn't even look me in the eye. The day you let me leave as if I were just another employee." Seon, now in shock, tried to argue. "But I've changed. I know I was wrong. Let me prove it." "Prove what? That you still love who I was? Because the man I am today, you don't even know." He placed money on the table, looked into her eyes one last time, and said, "I hope you find yourself, Seon, truly." And he walked out of the restaurant, leaving behind not just a woman dressed in regret, but also the weight of a past that no longer hurt. Seon stood there, frozen, her eyes filled with tears. For the first time, reality hit her. She had lost the only man who truly loved her. In the days following the meeting with Seon, Min-jae felt something different in his heart. It wasn't regret nor guilt. It was peace. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he had closed a chapter. But something still unsettled him. Someone. Ha-ren. The quiet yet ever-present waitress. The woman who took care of him during his hardest days, who organized his routine, who brought him coffee even when he didn't realize he needed it, who smiled even with tired eyes. She had become more than an employee. She was a gentle, silent, but essential presence. And it was exactly that absence that screamed inside him when she didn't show up for work. On the first day, he thought maybe she was just tired. On the second, he started to worry. On the third, he tried calling. No answer. Phone turned off. By the fourth day, he couldn't take it anymore. He went to the office and asked for her file. His hands were shaking. He grabbed her address and went straight there. His heart raced with every step. Something was wrong. He could feel it. He knocked on the door. Silence. Knocked again. Suddenly, the door opened, and a little girl with big eyes, hair in 2 braids, and a pink t-shirt appeared. Min-jae froze. "Hi, mister," she said with a smile. "Are you my mommy's friend?" He took a moment to answer. It was as if the world had stopped. "Yes? Is your mommy home?" "She is. She's lying down. She's sick. You can come in. I'll let you." Min-jae stepped in, still in shock. The small apartment was simple but clean. Toys were in the corner, drawings covered the walls, and the smell of rice lingered in the air. The little girl ran to the bedroom and came back, pulling her mother's hand. Ha-rin appeared, weak, pale, and feverish. When she saw Min-jae standing there, her eyes widened in surprise and fear. "Mr. Min-jae, what are you doing here?" "You disappeared. I was worried. Your phone was off, and no one knew where you were, so I came." She tried to smile, but her body didn't cooperate. "I'm sorry, I had a fever. I didn't want anyone to see me like this." He stepped closer. You have a daughter?" She hesitated and lowered her eyes. "Yes, she's 5. Why didn't you ever tell me?" Tears started falling from Ha-Ren's eyes. "Because I was ashamed. Because she wasn't born out of love. One night, when I was coming back late from my old job, I was followed and assaulted. My parents kicked me out. They said I brought shame to the family. I moved into a boarding house. I raised my daughter alone, and I lied about everything." Min-jae was paralyzed. The little girl sat at her colorful table, drawing, unaware of the gravity of the conversation. "I didn't want you to find out. I didn't want you to pity me. That's why I always hid it. But now you know. If you want to fire me, I'll understand." He knelt before her, took her hands. Min-jae's eyes filled with tears. "Pity? Ha-Ren, what you've done for me these past few months, no one else has. You took care of me when I was broken. You fed me, helped me with work, gave me advice. And even with your own pain, you never stopped smiling. I don't feel pity. I feel admiration and love." She cried like a child, and he hugged her tightly, without hurry, with everything he had kept locked inside his chest. That night, he went to the market, bought groceries, medicine, and made dinner. The little girl smiled seeing the two of them together, and when she fell asleep, Ha-Ren looked him in the eyes and asked, "Why? Why are you doing all this?" "Because I don't want to lose you anymore." A few days later, Se-yeon showed up at his office, tears in her eyes, makeup flawless, but her soul completely shattered. "I lost everything, Min-jae. My campaigns failed, investors left me, my followers are gone, because everything I did came from you. You were my inspiration. Without you, I'm just a shell." He listened, with respect, let her talk, let her cry, and when she finished, he simply said, "You didn't lose me now. You lost me the day you left me sitting alone in that room, and now I found someone who never left me." Se-yeon left in silence, feeling the weight of what she had let slip away. Min-jae, on the other hand, walked forward, firm, toward his new future. In those months, the coffee shop became a huge success. The business grew. Ha-Ren was promoted to manager. But more than that, she became his true partner in business, in life. Her daughter, Soo-mi, started spending more time at the cafe and quickly became well known by all the customers. Smart, polite, and always with a bright smile, she captured everyone's heart. She used to call Min-jae Uncle, until one day, with a shy little voice, she called him Appa, Daddy. That day, he cried like never before, holding tight to the two women who were now his family. And in that rebuilt home, a new story was born. A story with scars from the past, battles fought, but above all, filled with true, unconditional love. If this story touched your heart, comment below with a crying emoji and write, "I believe in the love that cares, that heals, and that gives us a new beginning." And listen carefully. Before making a rushed decision, before turning your back on someone who cares for you, remember this story. Because sometimes walking away too soon means losing the greatest blessing of your life. True love doesn't give up. It rises again. So, if you haven't yet, subscribe right now, leave your like, and share this video with someone who needs to believe in love again. And tell me, what was the moment that touched your heart the most? Drop it in the comments.